What about the French-speaking Quebec News? The real voice of Canada.
Now Oscar winner Marion Cotillard opens up about what's being called the greatest performance of the year. Think the interview was scandalous? Comedian Margaret Cho reveals if she worried about a hack attack after she played Kim Jong-un on TV.
I'm greatest waiter of all time.
This is The View with Whoopi, Nicole Wallace, Rosie Perez, and Rosie O'Donnell. It all starts now.
Welcome to The View. Whoopi is not feeling well today. I'm sure she will be back tomorrow. Rosie Perez is rehearsing for her Broadway show, Larry David play that she is starring in. So she will not be here for this month, right? Isn't she?
Yeah,
for the whole month.
But
joining us today, guest co-host, comedian, my buddy, funny, hysterical, you know her, you love her, Margaret Cho. Producer and writer on the Mindy Project, Tracy Wigfield. Hi, Tracy. And this very handsome man in the middle is the former NFL pro turned CBS NFL Today analyst, Tony Gonzalez. Hi, Tony.
Good to be here.
Nice to have everyone here. Well, this is our first show back in a couple weeks. Did everybody have a good holiday?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, good.
I went home and I was with my parents in New Jersey. I went to every Chico's and Talbot's in the tri-state area. My mother dragged me, and I just shopped and hung
I
out
thought
with my
it's
family.
not for you. Your mom shops there. It's not your.
Oh, Rosie, my mom has bought the store.
Really?
Yes.
You didn't get a duster or anything? Because that's what you always got to get a duster.
Oh, yeah, they got nice long jackets that just cover everything. That's my
Right.
jam.
I want that.
This was called Talbot's?
Talbot's and
I don't know that
Chico's.
store.
Chico's is good if you're in the plus size because they only go size 1, 2, or 3. So you still feel tiny, even though you're getting, like you gain a little over the holidays. I'll have the 2. You don't feel as
You go up
bad.
a size and it's not so
Exactly
dramatic.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I had a good time. I went down to Florida with the kids, and I was telling everybody before I went that we were going to have this rule about the iPhones, right? We were going to have a week of just family time. So we talked about it, and we decided we would hand in the phones at 10 a.m. into a bowl, and we'd get them back at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
2 hours.
Yeah.
Because it was cloudy and rainy. The 5 days we were there of the 7, it was raining in Florida. And literally by 2 hours, I was like, forget it. Everybody take your phone.
But I love what you said, that your kids are becoming like Annie Leibovitz quality photographers. My sister's like that. She takes the most incredible pictures with her iPhone, so I'm sort of glad she always has it.
Well, at first I was thinking this is horrible. We're not talking to each other. But the truth is, what they did mostly was record their vacation.
Yeah.
And look at these photos that my children took of each other.
Oh,
All right?
wow. Oh, my God.
So it was really stupendous to me. Like, that's Blake taking a picture of a kingfisher as we were on the boat. So
my
I
gosh.
took all of their phones and I put it into my computer and I made one of those iBooks.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like, we cheated on the rule, but I felt as though we had something creative and family-like. Even though.
I like that. I like that.
Wonderful.
I did a lot of bowling, and people are always surprised that I'm so good at bowling, but I am really good at bowling. And yeah, right? Maybe it's a Republican thing. We can bowl.
Do you lean down?
Well, so when I bowl, I always hit the center pin. And I have a 3-year-old. We went out to Tahoe. Here, he jumped in Lake Tahoe, and it's cold there, too. So that wasn't really part of the plan for the day. But we took him bowling because it was too cold to go outside, and I wasn't brave enough to put him on skis. But every ball that I bowl hits the center pin. Just sometimes it's so slow that it only knocks down like that one.
Oh, wow.
But they all go right down the middle. So I really I bowled like 4 times.
So you're not you don't put the little spin on the ball.
No,
you're
I
bowling
nothing
straight.
fancy. See, this is nothing fancy. Right down the middle, just not with very much force. So sometimes one goes down, the center one.
That's
but
it.
sometimes they all go down, and I'm so psyched when that happens. It's the best feeling. I can understand how like real athletes feel when they like have touchdowns.
Yeah.
Because when one pin goes down, I'm like, yeah.
That's it. You're throwing a party.
Imagine being like a like an NFL star must be a really great feeling.
That's exactly how it feels.
I'm right.
One pin down, you feel good.
Now, did you have to work? Did you have to do sports commentating
Yes,
over?
yes,
Yeah,
I was
you did.
working.
Lots of games.
This is
Tons
a
of
big
games.
football
Yeah,
season
see?
going
Sure.
on right now. This
Right.
is playoff time. Actually started yesterday, but
Right.
but yeah, over the holidays I was working, hanging out with the family. As
Where's
much as
the
I
beautiful
could.
family?
Yeah,
I
look at
have
this
to
beautiful
see.
family.
Beautiful
Look at this.
wife and your
Unreal.
Yeah, she's okay. Well, you see,
Yeah.
How cute.
that is my wife October, which you guys know. I've
Yes,
talked to
she's
you about here
lovely.
before.
Love her.
Lovely.
But yeah, those are my kids, and you'll see it before and after. There's the picture of her giving me some martinis, and I'm reading stories to my little son, and my daughter and my son are playing, and then after that, you see the real picture where they just hate each other, and everybody's fighting and screaming
Yeah,
at each other.
exactly.
Right? Just throw the martinis
Much
on.
more real.
Yeah,
Exactly.
much more real. That is Christmas around our house.
How about you, Margaret? What'd you do?
I spent the last 2 months feeding the homeless in
That's
San Francisco.
right.
Because, well, it was my way of dealing with the death of Robin Williams because I missed him.
Yes.
And I think people don't understand what a huge homeless activist he was.
Right.
Not only with Comic Relief, raising $70 million with Whoopi and Billy, but he had a clause in his contract where he, a certain percentage of the workers in the movies that he did had to be homeless workers. So he gave homeless people a dignified wage. And I feel like that part of his legacy has been lost, and I could not stop grieving him. And Michael Pritchard, who is also a homeless activist and comedian, told me, don't grieve Robin, be Robin. So I went out on the streets of San Francisco for 2 months with band Frightwig, and we went out there and we played and did songs and made a meeting point for people to donate clothes, food, whatever, a lot of tampons, a lot of, kind of hand sanitizer,
Sure.
socks,
Awesome, right?
and money. And I would just be there, and homeless people would come and take it. And so it was just a meeting point for very, very little version of Comic Relief, which was really hard.
And
but
you did
really
some
beautiful.
crowdsourcing on the internet?
Yes, and we raised a lot of money, which we ended up giving to different, a children's homeless organization, a teenage homeless organization, and Lava Mae, which is a homeless shower bus. So we're just trying to give some dignity back to homeless people.
Right.
And so that's what I did for my entire
What
holiday.
a wonderful thing.
Well, you gave us a lot of money.
Yes. Well, I
thank
saw it online. I was like, look what she's doing.
Rosie was the first person to sponsor our first day, and I was so moved, and you really got the ball rolling, and we made it a lot easier for homeless kids.
Yes.
It's getting colder. I mean, here, I don't know how people deal with it, but so we have an organization now called Be Robin, which is just, basically giving homeless people things. And my whole point is that you see a homeless person on the street, just remember that's somebody's kid.
Exactly.
I read a Times article about you and that work you were doing, and one thing that really broke my heart was you hugged someone, and he said, this is the first time I've been touched in a year.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking.
It's that we ignore them all the time. We sort of don't see them as human beings anymore, and I don't know why that is,
Yes.
Our country is so rich, but it's also so poor, and the divide is getting bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And I think this crosses political lines. This is just a humanity thing.
Yeah, I was in Venice with my kids last year, and Chelsea, my daughter, who's now 17, we were walking, and this little girl who was her age popped up from behind a bench where she was sleeping, and she's like, are you Rosie O'Donnell? I was like, yes. And she's like, oh my God, can I meet you? And she went to shake my hand. She goes, oh no, don't, I'm homeless.
Oh,
Right?
man.
Imagine, she felt like she was a leper, like she wasn't allowed to, and it was a very interesting thing to sit with your 17-year-old daughter and look at someone's 17-year-old daughter. And we asked her, how'd you get here? And she said, well, I had a fight with my parents. I'm from Cleveland like 2 years ago. and I haven't been able to get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a good, you know, we both went to Berkeley, and
Wow.
on the Berkeley campus, there are homeless people all over the place.
And the community is very connected.
Very
As
connected,
college
too.
students, you do a lot. I'm from San Francisco too, and what you described is sort of the vibe there, right?
Yeah.
There are gathering points, and it is a more connected community. I don't know, maybe you get to a faster city, and that disconnect grows.
And as a student, you're sitting out there, you walk from class to class, and you see homeless people, and you go up and talk to them.
Right.
You go up and
Or
you say you have a
buy them
conversation
food,
with
you
them.
buy a pretzel. I mean, it's totally different, right?
Yeah, and the connection, knowing that, hey, you know what, they're human beings. Let's sit out there and we talk and the connection with them.
Even giving them leftovers from a meal, even if they ask you for change, just if you don't have any, just look them in the eye.
And say hello.
Say hello, but I'm sorry, but you know, good luck to you, or
Right.
whatever. Just the humanization is the most important thing.
Compassion for 2015. How about that? Compassion. Hey, we're going to be right back, and we're going to do Hot Topics. Don't go away. This is The View.
Today, Real Housewife Teresa Giudice faces the reality of 15 months in prison. So how does she think she's keeping this from her children?
Sad news. Former Governor Mario Cuomo passed away at 82 years old, and he became a superstar in the Democratic Party for going after President Reagan at the 1984 Democratic Convention. We have a little piece of his speech. Take a look.
There is despair, Mr. President, in the faces that you don't see, in the places that you don't visit, in your shining city. This nation is more a tale of two cities than it is just a shining city on a hill. Mr. President, if you asked a woman who had been denied the help she needed to feed her children because you said you needed the money for a tax break for a millionaire or for a missile we couldn't afford to use.
Yeah, 1984, but it's still resonant, what he's saying today, right?
Yeah.
Yes, isn't that crazy?
Very relevant.
So, feelings? Anybody have any feelings?
He was really one of the good guys. I mean, he was really, really spirited. He really cared about people. And when I saw that speech when I was a little girl, I liked him because I thought he was Mel Brooks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
A little bit of a...
It's, you know,
have a side
high
by side?
anxiety. Like, you know, Blazing Saddles, all that kind of stuff I loved.
Yes.
He kind of reminded me of like, you know, an Italian cousin of my mom's or something.
Right.
Like just this, a really kind of straight shooting. He had a great quote that I was reading yesterday that I loved. There are only two rules for being successful. One, figure out exactly what you want to do, and two, do it. Which is, you know, which is just kind of hard, straight up advice. Yeah, and he was a real icon.
King of cool. The king of cool. Just watching another quote I love. Every time I've done something that doesn't feel right, it's ended up not being right.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what I live by now. 'Cause I've made a lot of mistakes. So
Well,
What kind of
Good stuff.
mistakes, Tony? What are you talking
we
about?
can't talk about that.
But I think what's so interesting is we were talking about the Kennedys, the Cuomos. The political dynasty is still alive and well in America. His son, obviously, is the governor of our state of New York.
And smoking hot, Chris Cuomo in 2020. Let's not forget about
He's
him.
a cutie patootie.
Well, there you have it. And then we're looking at a presidential election where a lot of people are talking about two more political families. So I think the Cuomos are one of those big political families. People are talking about the Clinton family and the Bush family.
Right.
So I think he's part of sort of that era of political families and political dynasties. So I think when we lose one of them, it's felt maybe more widely.
Yeah, it
than
feels a little like the end of an era, right? Like when the Kennedys gone and Tip O'Neill, he was part of the kind of group of Democrats that gave everybody hope, right?
Well, and even if you're on the other side, I think you can just appreciate a family that was so devoted to service that, you know, their children saw their father serve and decided to serve. So I think even if you don't agree with anything that comes out of his mouth, you honor and you respect a spirit of public service that transcends generations.
Well, it humanizes politics too. Like he was really reaching out to voters. It wasn't just like a Politico, you know, kind of getting power. He was really about.
He believed it.
Yeah, he believed in it, and let's get everybody to vote. Let's get everybody involved.
Yeah, and he never ran for president. Everybody kept saying he was going to run, but he never did. And do you know why, Nicole? Why wouldn't he?
I don't, but
No.
I think that when we lose a politician and everyone feels something, that says something good about politics, about what it was and what it can be. So I think
I
that's
think what
nice.
you said right there, though, he was believable. And when he
Yes.
spoke, it just resonated with everybody. Like,
Yes.
it didn't matter what political view you had. It's like, this guy is up there, and I can feel exactly what he's trying to tell me.
But that keynote, that place within the Democratic convention really is, that's where you launch the presidential candidate. That's how we all learned about who Obama was.
Right.
You know, and so that's that sort of thing. It's surprising that he didn't run. So
Yeah.
maybe he just felt really solid in what he was doing. Like, this is enough for me.
And you watch that Obama speech at the DNC, and man, there's so much that rings the same. There's so many parallels between that 1984 speech, all about the wealth gap, but also about we're all kind of one, and you know, the poorest people's problems are our problems.
Yeah.
I think there's someone else too that people feel united in feeling their
Yes,
loss.
that's right.
Someone that you knew, right?
Well, most people, I'm sure a lot of people in the sports world know who I'm talking about Stuart Scott. He was with ESPN, anchor for a long time. And this man is the reason that sports, I really believe, is so popular the way it is today, because he connected with the youth, with using hip-hop lyrics to describe sports, which is something that was never done before. It was usually the white reporters reporting their views of what sports was, and it was the first time you saw a black man come out there, and his delivery was so good. He would say stuff like, he's as cool as the other side of the pillow, or booyah, or look at the jam, like just that urban street flavor, and such an inspirational man. He died of cancer, and there is a speech that he gave at the ESPY Awards last year that was absolutely inspirational. I think we have a clip here. We should show this right now, because it was amazing.
When you die, that does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. So live, fight like hell. And when you get too tired to fight, then lay down and rest and let somebody else fight for you.
Wow.
Man.
Really beautiful. You know, I was ashamed to say, I didn't know who he was at all. You know, I really don't watch very much sports at all. I don't think I ever put on ESPN. I didn't know who he was, but reading about him, and it was so moving to see his love for his family during that ESPY speech. He brought up his daughters on the stage.
Yeah.
But talking about leveling the playing field, here's somebody who actually leveled the entire world of sports, because he was using the language of the players and the fans to talk to everyone. And that is so revolutionary and brilliant. And I think that legacy will never be forgotten, because now sports is like, you know, before it really was racially divided, and now we are all together in this.
Yeah.
And more than the generational piece, I think is just as important, because I think you see kids watching sports with their parents, and then they bring their kids into it, and there aren't a lot of things that divide all those gaps. And when you have your own kids, you sort of seek out those things. And I think he also gets a lot of the credit for doing that.
Yeah.
He
Well,
should.
he will be missed. We're going to take a break, come back, and talk about Teresa Giudice. I don't know how you say her name. Close enough. From the Housewives, who apparently is on her way to the clink. All right, we'll be back with that. Don't go away.
Frozen to Finding Nemo had moments that left everyone ugly crying. But find out why scientists say it'll lead to a happy ending for your kids.
We are back with guest hosts Tracy, Margaret, and Tony. Real Housewives of New Jersey, Teresa Giudice, I don't know, begins her 15-month-old stint in prison today for multiple tax fraud charges. She told her 13 and 10-year-old daughters where she's going, but her 8-year-old and 4-year-old girls think she's going on a trip to work on a book about jail.
I'm just, as a woman who hails from New Jersey, I'm just so excited that we have another positive representation in the media.
Yeah.
It's just so exciting, like after Jersey Shore and stuff, that she can really get her name out there. I mean, this is insane. Like I feel bad for her because she has a family, but she got
She should have thought about that before she committed tax fraud.
But she should have just told them that she's going to be on Orange is the New Black.
Right. Exactly.
There you go.
That would have been smarter.
And Crazy Eyes' new girlfriend. That would have been the best.
I Oh, she's hanging with Red.
We talked about the arrogance to commit a crime while you're on television.
You remember she'd like take out like a wad of like $50,000 to pay for things?
She spent like $300,000 on a 1-year-old's birthday.
That's cray-cray.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have a 4-year-old. You have a 3-year-old.
I have a 3-year-old.
How much did you spend on their birthday?
Well, embarrassing amounts. But he can get he knows his way around an iPad. So like he can get on YouTube. The notion that they can't get online and figure out where mommy really went.
Or somebody's going to tell them.
Yeah.
Somebody, especially the 8-year-old. 8-year-old's going to find out. The 4-year-old, I get where she's coming from, where you don't want to say it right away, because maybe she's thinking, but we would like to think that she's thinking, I'll tell them eventually, but right now I don't want them to know that I'm actually going to jail.
But is she not going to see her kids for 14 months, that means? She's not going to bring them to visit?
Well, she's in jail, but she's working on the book about jail.
I know, but are they going to come see her, or is mommy just going to go away?
It's the set of Orange is the New Black.
I think this
Well, the cameramen are off for a break.
Yeah.
It's, very realistic.
Very realistic.
Well,
she's locked up abroad.
Yeah,
Very
exactly. Well, I wish her luck, is all I can say. On a serious note, some New York City police have been using the funerals of the officers Rafael Ramos and Wenjian Li, who were assassinated in their patrol car by a deranged gunman who had killed his spouse in another state and also was looking for revenge against police, he said. Killed himself, so we won't really know. They were protesting Mayor de Blasio at the funeral. They turned their backs on him at both funerals over statements the mayor had previously made about talking to his biracial teenage son, Dante, about being careful when he's outside while dealing with the police. And the police apparently were so offended by the way that he dealt with the reality of his children's lives that they took this personally and are offended by it. Thoughts?
It's all very difficult. I mean, the thing about the issue of police brutality is that these protests that we're dealing with are not just about Trayvon or Ferguson or Eric Garner. We're talking about Amadou Diallo. We're talking about Rodney King. So this is many, many years that we've been dealing with police brutality. But I have to say that whenever black and white people fight, Asians and Mexicans don't know what to do.
Really? Yeah.
You know,
it's confusing.
It's like, am I white? You know, from this perspective, I look white. My eyes are in my head and looking out. I think it looks kind of off-white.
Maybe.
Well, and one thing, too, I think to keep in mind about the police is that they are feeling things that they have been feeling that have been brewing since before Mayor de Blasio ran for office. They feel that he ran an anti-cop campaign. They feel
What do you mean by that, an anti-cop
campaign? Well, he ran a campaign where he felt like Mayor Bloomberg's policies about policing had... Stop and frisk was his first initiative. He overturned that. And whenever you think about that, that was his first thing. He ran a campaign where police issues were front and center. So the NYPD, I think, has felt this way for a long time before he made those comments. And I think, like you said when we talked about this before, there are no winners here. I mean, the NYPD is as entitled to their right to free speech and to protest and to turn their backs as the protesters are. We sat here every day, all 5 of us, celebrating the peaceful protests around the country.
When is it going to be the time where he comes out and at least admit, and I'm not saying you don't have to say I'm sorry for my comments, but at least say something that maybe I said it the wrong way. It was an emotional time for me. I think it'll never end until he comes out and at least accepts some type of responsibility for not handling it the right way.
Well, I don't think that he handled it the wrong way. I think that's the reality of what he's living. And I think that the nation needs to be able to have cognitive dissonance, to hold 2 opposing thoughts in your brain at the same time, which is there is systemic racism in the United States, and sometimes the police overreact, and not all police are bad.
Absolutely.
Right. So how do you hold both thoughts and progress as a society?
I wish he would come out and say exactly what you just said. At least say that.
But
say
it feels
something.
like he has to do something, right? Because like even this last week, like arrests were down 66%. There's a virtual work stoppage of police.
I walked my dog at midnight in Central Park, and don't come get me if you don't agree with me. And I feel safe because of what this police force has done for the city. I live here in this city.
I mean, the good thing is
because of the NYPD and what they've done.
You can commit petty crimes if you want to go out and publicly urinate, if you want to jaywalk. Like now's the time to do it, guys. But it's scary. If
What's going on with you, Tracy?
It's sorrowful that this did happen at a fallen officer's funeral. funeral, 2 fallen officers.
Yes.
And that's what's really sad. That you know, this was just supposed to be a thing to honor all the police, and that they use this for protest. Not that I'm arguing with them; they're very emotional, but it's just sad all around.
Commissioner Bratton had that great quote that he told the police that was a hero's funeral is not about grievance, it's about grieving, which is exactly right. There's a time.
But the fallen officers' families did say they understood the police officers. So I think this is a moment, like you said, where we have to understand both sides.
It is important to note, too, that not all officers turn their back. Not all.
Correct. Not all. And, you know, I read a really wonderful book over the break called The New Jim Crow about the arrest rates of African-American males in the United States. That 30% of our population are African-American males, but 60% of the prison population African-American males, and how this is a new form of segregation, same as the Jim Crow laws. It's an absolutely astonishing book, and I think it really kind of underscores a lot of the problems that the African-American community is having with the white police force in general in the country. And you can look at it holistically as opposed to individual events and possibly find a conclusion. Who knows? But we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with Marion Cotillard, who's in this new movie. She was Edith Piaf, and she won the Oscar, and she's in a brand new one that is even better. So don't go away. We'll be right back right after this.
Would hanging out with this crew and Anchorman 2 look like fun to you?
I had a crush on him when I was a school girl.
Find out why Oscar winner Marion Cotillard says it could be a little scary.
Cotillard already won an Oscar for her performance in La Vie en Rose, and now she's winning just about every other award on earth for her role in the new movie 2 Days, One Night, which the New York Times calls a piece of screen acting the best that you will ever see. Take a look.
T'as dit à certains que c'était mieux que je sois licenciée parce que sinon ce serait eux.
J'ai jamais dit ça.
Si, tu l'as dit. Et ce week-end aussi. T'as appelé pour leur dire de pas changer d'avis.
Comment ça? Qui t'a dit ça?
Peu importe. Tu n'as pas de cœur.
Please welcome Marion Cotillard.
So nice. Thank you for coming. Have a seat.
It's so great to meet you. First of all, you're an unbelievable actress.
Thank you.
La Vie en Rose, how did you do that? Edith Piaf, how did you do that?
Well, you know, when you have the opportunity to have a great role, and that was my dream when I was a kid, well, you do whatever you can to, you know, to do it good.
Yeah, well, you obviously know how, because that was the most unbelievable performance. And this new movie, 2 Days, One Night, is a story about a woman suffering with depression who has lost her job as a result of that. Yeah. When you read the script, did you know the backstory of the woman? Or did you have to create it?
I had to create it, and it was actually very interesting to create everything I would need to feed the emotion that I would have to have on screen. And I never went through a depression myself, but I came very close, and I could, well, let me tell you, depression is a very hard subject to talk about, because people who haven't experienced it can be very judgmental.
Yes.
And I was. Not very judgmental, but I was wondering, well, when you're healthy and you have your 2 legs and your 2 arms and you can just get out of bed and do something. Well, no, it's not that easy.
Exactly.
And I came very close to it, but then I fought because I didn't want to fall.
Right.
But the fact that I came close to it and that I had a sense that it's not that easy really helped me.
Yeah, as someone who suffers from depression, I found it so accurate and so beautifully nuanced, your performance, you know? Nobody was a victim, no one, you weren't pitying her, but you so understood. what she was going through.
Yeah, that's the talent of the Dardenne brothers, that they love their characters, they love the people they tell the story about, and they never really judge them. But you get to come close to what they feel, even when they do bad things.
Right. This movie has subtitles, which I know scares a lot of Americans, but it's worth it. Trust me. I had someone tell me.
And I have a Belgian accent in it.
Yes, and it's very.
You will never notice, but.
No, I noticed. I thought it was very impressive. You have that Meryl Streep talent. You can just be from anywhere, right?
I don't think so, but.
You've heard the
Thank
talk.
you.
There's talk again about an Oscar nomination. What was that Oscar experience like for you?
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah. That was amazing because when they talked about they talked about it in June. It was back in 2008, and I thought, but it's a French movie, and I speak French in it, so how is it possible to even think about it?
Right.
And they told me that in America they don't have the rules that we have in France. For example, if your movie is not financed with French money, you cannot
win the award.
Yeah. And they told me no. They just, when they like somebody, they just want to tell this person they like.
Well, when there's a performance like yours, you can't help but notice. It's like catching lightning in a bottle, right? Honestly, it's so brilliant in both of these films. I understand you have a baby.
I do.
How old?
Oh, I mean, he's a little boy now.
How old is he?
He's 3.5.
They're babies till they're 8 to me. Yeah. They're babies till 8, and then...
Actually, yeah. He will always be a baby to me too.
Does he speak English and French and...
He speaks French.
Only?
Yeah. Well, I guess he understands English a little bit because with his dad, when we don't want him to understand, we speak English, so I guess he's gonna want to get it.
Yeah, he probably knows all the curse words, just like my 2-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. It is really lovely to meet you. I really think you're an amazing actress, and it's really an honor to watch your work.
Thank you.
It really is. Marion Cotillard, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You'll parler français un peu. 2 days, 1 night is open in select theaters now.
My mother does not like my tattoos. I don't like tattoo. There's too much. I don't like. Mommy don't like. I don't like tattoo. I don't like. Meanwhile, she has her eyebrows tattooed, her eyeliner, her blush, her lipstick.
Oh, we're back with my buddy Margaret Cho, who's about to launch a new late-night show that answers everything you always wanted to know about sex, but were afraid to ask. Margaret, tell us about your new show.
Well, I love this because you inspired me. Rosie's always told me that I should be writing a book about relationships and the different relationships that I have, and so this is the perfect venue for that. And, you know, it's helping women, I think, everybody, but especially women, understand sexuality. And I'm joined by Heather McDonald, Marissa Jenner Winokur, Dr. Tiffany. Yeah, they're all really have their own perspective, but I think my role on it is I'm like the wild card. I'm there to talk about polyamory, about alternative sexuality, about LGBT issues, about sex toys.
Yeah.
So
I love one of your greatest quotes about what makes a long-lasting marriage.
Well,
you've told me this.
The key to a successful marriage is have sex with a lot of other people.
Okay.
All right.
All right. That's one way to do it.
Yeah, because it takes a village. But I find it to be very true.
But you know, we were having, I think, the best conversation of the day before we came on about why this is still a hard topic for a lot of people. And I love what you said about social media. It makes it more.
Well,
talk about that.
Yeah, I think now when people talk about sexuality, it's very difficult because of social media. Because if you say something, it's out there, and it's out there out of context, and it's out there for people to judge. And so people have actually become much more private about sexuality since the dawn of social media.
And that doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help, because I think misinformation, miseducation, myth, rumor, these things, I think they spread ignorance, they spread STDs, they spread heartbreak. It's very difficult.
Right. How did you come up with the concept, and how'd you sell the show? Did you say, you know, hey, it's me, Margaret, I'd like to talk about sex for an hour?
Well, it's TLC came to me. Yeah. I had this thought in my mind. It was my dream show, you know, because I wanted to do like, you know, an Oprah type show, but that was about sex. So it was like a Hopra. And so, but actually now it's more like Chopra. And so it was just something that we could talk about sex openly and not feel judged, not feel ashamed. And so we were getting all of our questions from social media, and myself and the host will just talk about it. And I have experience because I've been in many different kinds of relationships, a lot of polyamorous relationships. I'm also an expert on sex toys after serving on the board of Good Vibrations for many years. So I know it all.
Now, I might reveal myself as a prude. What is that?
Good Vibrations is the first sex toy store that was open for women. Oh. Women to feel safe about buying sex toys and learning about sex and learning about sexuality and learning about themselves.
And their bodies and what works and what feels good and how to make yourself happy during the event.
Men don't need, I'll tell you what, men don't need a store like that.
No, you do not.
We gotta get it done.
Now, Margaret, I was a writer on 30 Rock, and you came on, and in 2012, you were actually nominated for an Emmy for playing North Korean dictator Kim Jong-il and his son Kim Jong-un. Did you?
Yes.
Oh man, and you were so funny. But in the light of the Sony scandal, did you ever have any are your emails safe? Is what I'm asking.
I think so. You know, there's actually pictures out there, naked pictures of me leaking, and nobody cares. So it's not like I have suffered anything. I think actually North Korea believes that I am really Kim Jong-un because I look so much like him that they're not threatened.
That's great. That's great. Right. So you understand you're starting a new comedy series in March, right?
Oh, well, yeah. I have a new comedy special, which is all. I mean, my special is going to be stand-up comedy, which is directly related my anger about violence towards women, because I think that is the next wave of women. I've seen stuff happening every day, and I don't know why we're not doing something. Women have to get together and do something. And so the title of it is "There's no I in team, but there is a Cho in Psycho."
But speaking of Psycho, I guess you also commissioned an artist to do artwork and paint it in your blood.
It's in my blood. It's a wonderful artist named Vincent Castiglia, and
I love his work, actually.
He's amazing, and so he took my blood to make this. He's a beautiful, beautiful artist, and
wow.
I didn't even need a donut afterwards.
No, there it is.
Human blood.
Well, it's great to have you here, Morgan. If you never got to see her stand up, go see her live, and definitely check out her new show all about sex.